Okay, hi dear students. Today we are going to talk about relative clauses. For example, the boy whose father is a doctor is in my class. Can you see this part of the sentence? Whose father is a doctor? Which boy? Whose father is a doctor? A relative clause gives information about a noun. Una relative clause nos da información sobre un sustantivo. En este caso, si es que yo no tuviera esa parte de la oración, la que está subrayada, no podría entender el contexto, porque solamente diría, the boy is in my class. Pero yo no sabría a cuál de los chicos se está refiriendo. Defining relative clauses. First, we are going to talk about the relative pronouns. We have who, that, for people, which and that for things, whose for possessions, when for time, where for places, why for a reason, and what is equal than the thing that. Okay? So, to replace that noun, I am going to use these relative pronouns. In the case of the non-defining relative clauses, we have the relative pronouns who for people, which for things, whose for possessions, when for time, where for place, why for reason, and what equals to the thing that. Complete the sentences using who, which, whose, where, or that. This one is pretty simple because we already saw this kind of exercises in our books. The woman lives next door is a doctor. The only relative pronoun that we could use here is exactly who. This is the book. I am talking about an object. Estoy hablando de un objeto. No puedo utilizar who, right? Utilizaré that. This is the book that I told you about. That's the school. Cuando yo menciono school, estoy hablando sobre un lugar. So the relative pronoun that I need to use is exactly where. That's the school where I studied when I was younger. He's the man. I am talking about a person. Person belonging. He's the man whose car was stolen last night. Cuyo carro fue robado. Hablamos de esa palabra tan curiosa en las clases. I love films. Have a lot of action scenes. I am talking about the films. Which? Excellent. The boy won the race is my cousin. I am talking about the person. The boy who won the race is my cousin. He visited a museum, had a lot of ancient artifacts. I am talking about the museum. So, I need to use where or that. Don't forget about it. And the last one, the restaurant we had dinner was amazing. The only pronoun that I could use for a place is exactly where. Now, join the sentences using a relative pronoun who, which, whose, where, or that. Remember that we use relative pronouns to mix two sentences each other. Utilizamos los relative pronouns para poder combinar dos oraciones en una, sin necesidad de repetir el sustantivo que estamos empleando. Por ejemplo, she met a boy, ella conoció a un niño o a un chico. The boy speaks 5 languages. El chico habla 5 idiomas. Para no utilizar esas dos oraciones, yo las voy a converger en una sola y diré she met a boy who speaks 5 languages. Omito el the boy y solamente lo reemplazo por el relative pronoun who. The next one. We stayed at a hotel. The hotel was very expensive. En este caso, el noun que vamos a omitir es the hotel y lo podemos reemplazar por exactly where. So, we stayed at a hotel which was very expensive. That was very expensive. Okay? Okay. This is my friend. His sister is a famous singer. This is my friend whose sister is a famous singer. I am not talking about a friend, I am talking about the sister of my friend. Number 4, I have a laptop. The laptop is very fast. So my relative clause will be I have a laptop which is very fast or that is very fast. I could use in these cases which or that. And the last one, there's a park near my house. I love going there. I am talking about specifically the place. There's a park near my house where I love going. Okay? It's almost clear until this part? I hope so. As I told you before, there are two types of relative clauses. Well, actually, there are more, but okay. We are going to talk about the defining relative clauses at this moment. This defining relative clause gives necessary information and is essential to the meaning of the main sentence. Essential. If we omit it, the sentence is not going to have any meaning at all. Okay? For example, he is the doctor who was killed in a car crash. If I only say he's the doctor, you are not going to understand which doctor I am talking about. But if I add the information who was killed in a car crash, you know who is the doctor that I am talking about. That's the girl whose mom is a teacher. If I only say that's the girl, you are not going to understand whom is the girl that I am talking about. But if I say that's the girl whose mom is a teacher, you could understand which is the girl that we are talking. Then, non-defining relative clauses. The not defining relative clauses, this gives extra information and is not essential to the meaning of the main sentence. So that means that is something extra. Es un plus la información que nos están dando. For example, John, who was very lazy, failed the test again. Si yo omito lo que está entre comas, who was very lazy, me queda la oración. John failed the test again. It's not as much interesting to me that I said who was very lazy, okay? George, who is very handsome, is my brother. That information is extra information. It's not going to change the idea that I am talking about. A defining relative clause. In the defining relative clauses are not put in commas. Who, which, that can be omitted when they are the object of the relative clause. Yo puedo omitir who, which y that en el caso de que estas sean el objeto de la relative clause. For example, that is the letter which or that Helen sent me. After the object of the sentence, you consider that is the letter Helen sent me. Okay? I sent a package which arrived 20 days later. In this case, I am using which because it's necessary to use. Then, the people who live in that island are very friendly. After the subject of the sentence, I could use who. Okay? It can't be omitted. If I put it after the subject of the sentence, you cannot omit it which, who, or that. Whose, where, when, why, what are not normally omitted, even if they are the object of the relative clause. That is the hotel where the president is staying. I am not going to omit that. In a non-defining relative clauses, non-defining relative clauses are put in commas. The relative pronoun cannot be omitted. En este caso, yo no puedo omitir ese relative pronoun. No hay forma. Si es que me toca la oración no defining relative clauses, es decir, la información extra está entre comas, yo no puedo omitir ese who, ese that, ese which que se encuentra dentro de las comas. Write D for defining and ND for non-defining relative clauses. This is the skirt that I bought in the sales. Obviously, is a defining relative clause. As you could see here, you have only exercise number 5, 6, 9, and 10 that are not a defining relative clause. They are non-defining relative clauses. Why? Because they are put into commas. Okay? That's how I find my information there, because they are into commas. Now, read each sentence and decide if the relative clause is defining. You know how to identify. Non-defining relative clauses, they are into commas, so it's easy to understand this exercise actually. Number 2 is a non-defining, of course, because they are into commas. Number 4 is a non-defining, and the last one is a defining relative clause. Combine the sentences. Rewrite each pair of sentences as one sentence using a relative clause. Use a defining clause if the information is essential, or a non-defining clause if the information is additional. For example, Julia won the award. Julia is the best student in the class. The combination, the mix of these two sentences will be Julia, who is the best student in the class, won the award. I could omit who is the best student in the class because it's extra information. The important thing here is that Julia won the award. Number 2, I met a famous actor yesterday. He was in my favorite movie. I met a famous actor who was in my favorite movie yesterday. There's no extra information. I need both pieces of information. Our office building has a rooftop garden. The rooftop garden is open to all employees. Our office building, which has a rooftop garden open to all employees, is very modern. In this case, the extra information is which has a rooftop garden open to all the employees. Why is an extra information? Because if I only say our office building is very modern, you completely and clearly understand the situation. Number 4, the professor gave an interesting lecture. The professor is from Oxford University. The professor, who is from Oxford University, gave an interesting lecture. One more time, I could omit who is from Oxford University because the main information is that the professor gave an interesting lecture. Insert or remove commas as needed to correct each sentence. State whether the clause should be defining or not defining. My friend who is a photographer is taking pictures of the event. Very good. We need to put commas. My friend who is a photographer is taking pictures of the event. Number 2, the car which is parked outside belongs to my neighbor. It's correct. Number 3, my sister, who just got married, is planning a big party. That's correct. Number 4, the museum, which was founded in 1890, is undergoing renovations. That is a sentence that is also correct.